Greetings, fellow book lovers, and welcome back to Colin's Corner. Today, we'll be going over everything that I managed to read in the month of September, which, as you may remember, was Self-Pub September. But before we get into today's wrap-up, we have to go over the answer for the last video's Comedy with Colin segment, where I asked you guys to joke. Who is a penguin's favorite ant? The answer? Antarctica. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get on with today's wrap-up. So I started the month with a novella called A Knife in the Dark. This is by a self-published author named Corey McCullough, and this is marketed as a sci-fi detective noir thriller. It's kind of a mouthful, but that is what it is marketed as, and that is the product that was delivered. Now, being a novella, I kind of anticipated this to hit the ground running and really just take off with a lot of steam, and it certainly did that. So in this, we are following a retired detective named Jack Torelli, who gets hired by a billionaire to solve the murder of the billionaire's son. Now, this is a futuristic setting in a place called Janus, where nighttime lasts 145 hours, I believe it is, and it constantly rains. The characters in this story are also able to modify themselves, modify their bodies to gain years of life, gain strength, and so on. We've got artificial intelligence, we've got flying cars, really fun weaponry, and a gripping story tightly wrapping it all up. So this was a quick read. As I said, it was a novella. It was a little over 100 pages, I believe, 130 pages. So if you are looking to dip into something quick and fun that's got like a sci-fi detective feel to it, I highly recommend A Knife in the Dark by Corey McCullough. Next, I followed up A Knife in the Dark with another Corey McCullough book. This one is called The Fallen Odyssey. Look at this cover. Amazing. So this is book one in McCullough's Fallen tetralogy. I believe there are 3 books out. Like I said, this is the first one, and this is a YA portal fantasy. So in this book, we are following our main character. His name is Justin Holmes, and he is kind of a distressed teenager. He and his father haven't been seeing eye to eye, and the relationship has been really strained ever since the unfortunate passing of Justin's mother due to a fatal car accident. So Justin's teenage angst and desire to be anywhere but this house, as I'm sure many of us have said to our parents at one point or another, got taken to new heights when he suddenly woke up one day and found himself in a parallel world. So Justin in this world is no longer just an ordinary teenage boy. He has to become accustomed to his new role in this place. And this book had some really awesome and really fun magic centered around something called Aurum, which I don't really fully understand quite yet, as this is just the first book. But from what I gathered, it's essentially almost like channeling life force, which different people have different expressions of aura, like fire-wielding abilities or healing abilities, and they're channeled through like rune stones within other items. So that was a really fun and not too unique idea of a magic system, but the way that McCullough portrays it was certainly very unique and fun. There are some also freaking really cool, just creepy villains and creatures in this book that definitely had the hair on the back of my neck standing up at different points. There was some creepy, I mean, it was YA, so it wasn't gruesome really or anything like that, but there were some creepy aspects of this story, different settings that the characters traveled through in this world that really grabbed my attention. So like I said, this is the first book in a tetralogy. I will certainly be continuing on with this series at some point. And again, I highly recommend, that's 2 for 2. Corey McCullough is 2 for 2 for me. So I highly recommend giving one of his books a try. Like I said, if you just want to get a taste for his writing style, you can grab A Knife in the Dark. I will link all these books too in the description of the video. But that's a quick read. But I highly recommend The Fallen Odyssey as well. Next up, I read The Severing Sun. Can we get a focus here? There we go. This is by another self-published author named Vaughn Roycroft. and this is set in a world called Dania. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. There have been tales for ages in this world of something called the Bringer of Uranan, which allegedly was supposed to be the coming of somebody that would cause a great upheaval in Dania. Now, our main character, his name is Valdan. He's the son of a wrongly exiled ex-chief of the Amalis clan, which is one of the ruling clans in Dania. Valdan's father has been training him for basically from the time that he was a child to protect himself. Valdan never understood why, and all he wanted to do was continue carving these intricate wooden figures that he had a talent for and that brought him so much joy. Elan, who is a revered warrior of the nomadic Skolani tribe of the world of Dania, crosses paths with Valdan in a chance encounter that ends up changing the fate of both Valdan and Elan, and perhaps all of Dania in the end. This book was full of action, but never felt too overwhelming for me. Vaughn does a fantastic job writing battle scenes, and really took the time to make sure that we as the reader understood all the different essentially peoples of this land and their history and their relationship to one another, but without making it feel too preachy. So I felt like I knew where all of the different peoples of this land stood and what they fought for, and so it gave a lot of substance to the politics of the world of Dania, and I didn't expect that in this first book, but we really got a lot of that, and I feel like I have a pretty good grasp of the political landscape of this world. Now, the only gripe that I honestly have in this first book is that the romantic aspects of it felt a little bit YA to me. Not that that in and of itself is a bad thing, but the book certainly isn't YA, so the kind of, I don't know, the angsty and slightly immature actions taken as a result of romantic emotions that some of the characters take in this book kind of took me out of the story just because it didn't feel like it fit necessarily. But like I said, that was pretty much the only gripe that I had, and overall I would highly recommend this book. I am extremely excited for, I think Bold Ascension is the second book in the series that is not quite out yet, but should be coming out soon. So I'm really excited for Vaughn to release the second book, and I will certainly be reading that. Next up, I read the first novella in the Voidwalker Collection. Again, another awesome cover from a self-pub author. So this is by an author named Derek Bailey, who very kindly sent this to me. This is a collection of 8 novellas that all center around a cerebral place called the Manor. In this first book, the main character, Brian Daly, begins having these extremely vivid and realistic dreams, or so he thinks they're dreams, where he ends up in the Manor, which is a magnificent dinner party with luxurious food and drink, exceptional music, and strange and enigmatic attendees. This first novella feels like a big fever dream where we as the reader are just trying to figure out what the heck is going on right alongside our main character, Brian. Bailey does a tremendous job of creating an interesting gothic horror feeling atmosphere, and there was so much intrigue created around this odd place called the Manor. One of the things that stuck out the most to me in this first novella was Bailey's description of food and drinks. I literally found myself salivating, I'm not even kidding you, over some of the dishes and the detail that Bailey describes these plates with, and it made me really hungry quite a bit in just about 50 some odd pages. So I'm really excited that I have 7 more novellas in this collection to read, and I'm just kind of tossing these in leisurely in between some of my bigger reads, and it's fun to have a collection of novellas as a fantasy reader, a reader of very large books. It's fun to have this kind of place where I can just go, spend a little bit of time, get a nice, concise but contained story with a beginning and an end. And these are all tied together too, so there's the main overarching plot. And I was reading the preface of the book, and Bailey's, one of his goals for this collection was to have it feel like a a show on one of these streaming services that we watch, where the novellas kind of feel episodic and will leave you kind of wanting to get to the next one, and they will lead you into the next one. And so I've only read one of them. I can't say for sure if that's how it's going to end up feeling, but that was his goal. And this first one certainly felt like a really kind of like a pilot episode to a fun show that I'm excited to watch. And it just kind of so happened that I began reading this towards spooky season, and I think it's going to fit in really well with that kind of whole vibe. So again, the Voidwalker Collection by Derek Bailey. I highly recommend picking this one up and giving it a shot. Next up, I listened to the first book in the Cradle series called Unsouled by Will White. Now, I was not sure how I was going to feel about Cradle because it is what people are referring to as progression fantasy. So it basically reads like a video game almost, where the characters gain experience and essentially level up. It sounded like a strange concept for a book for me, but so many people, I guess not so many people, but the people that love Cradle, and it always really interests me when a fan base is that fanatic about a series. Sometimes it doesn't work for people, and I get that, but I have been intrigued by Cradle for quite a while now, and I figured that I would fit it into Self Pub September and just do it on audio. So that's what I did, and I have to admit that I was pretty lost for most of this first book, as White does not do a very great job of explaining how anything in this world works. Now, it didn't really bug me too much. I sort of just mentally allowed myself to just go along for the ride and see where it was going to end up. With that being said, a ton of stuff happened in this first book, and although I didn't fully understand what was going on for a lot of it, I did grow pretty attached to Lyndon, who is our main character that we're following in this first installment. I don't think I'll be prioritizing Cradle really highly, but I definitely enjoyed it enough to continue on with the series, and I'm thinking I might do something similar to what I'm doing with Dresden with Cradle, and just throw one in maybe every month, every 2 months, in between some of my bigger reads. And I've been told of Dresden and Cradle specifically that they both kind of take off after a little while, so maybe that will happen with Cradle. I'm going to see how I feel after book 2 and just kind of take it from there. Lastly, as of the recording of this video, I am about 500 pages into Fool's Fate, the final installment of the Tawny Man trilogy by Robin Hobb. So I cannot say too much about this because I haven't finished it yet, and obviously for spoiler reasons, but I can say that the stakes are extremely high, and I am very emotionally attracted to and attached to what is currently going on in the story right now. My nerves are high, and I am worried for certain characters in this world that I love so much now. This is the 9th book in the series that I am reading, The Realm of the Elderlings, so I'm very attached to a lot of the characters. There's also a lot of new characters in the Tawny Man trilogy that I've grown to love, and so I am just hooked. I'm in deep right now, and I won't say anything else because once I finish this book and catch up to Ben over on Books with Bengus Khan, we will be doing a live spoiler-filled discussion of this book. I cannot remember if it is my turn to host or Ben's turn to host, but once I finish this and we get a plan cemented, I will and Ben will let you guys know where and when to join us for our discussion of Fool's Fate. That is going to do it for my month of September, guys, where I got a lot more reading done than I anticipated. I already mentioned that I will be doing a chat with Ben on Fool's Fate at some point in the near future, but I did want to alert you guys to some other chats and some other things that will be coming up either on my channel or that I will be involved in. So the first of which will be happening this Friday, potentially. As of right now, it is still a go. But I will be on Britain's channel, Some Okie Dude, and we will be having a discussion on Stephen King's It, which is one of my favorite books of all time, probably in my top 10 for sure. So I'm really, really excited about that. That one will be at 7 p.m. Central Time. The next chat that I will be a part of is happening this upcoming Sunday. That will be on Bald and Balding's channel, and that is just going to be kind of just like a loose hangout type interview. The premise that I was told is called A Book and a Beverage. I was told to show up with a book and a beverage. So that's what I plan on doing. I am anticipating a really laid back atmosphere, just kind of chatting, getting to know each other a little bit more. And that, again, I think I said is Sunday, but the time is going to be 12 p.m. and that one's Eastern. And the last thing that I want to mention is that I'm pretty sure that all of the members of our Malazan read-along have now finished the Deadhouse Gates read. So we are currently working together to try to find somehow a day that works for 4 adult human beings where we can get a couple of hours lined up where we can sit and have a chat, a live chat, a spoiler-filled chat of Deadhouse Gates. And once we get that chat out of the way, we can then move on to Memories of Ice. So those are a few things to be on the lookout for. But before we wrap up today's video, we have to, of course, do comedy with Colin. Today's joke is going to be, what did one plate say to the other? If you think you know the answer, drop it down in the comments below. Guys, what did you read in September? I want to hear about it. Maybe tell me what your favorite read of the month was. I hope you are all enjoying what you're currently reading, and remember, you're always welcome in Colin's Corner.